Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is Ella Aquarella. For today's video, I decided to go outdoor sketching somewhere in New York, and I picked to go to Central Park and do a sketch of the skyline and find a good spot. So in this video here, you can see me walking around Central Park trying to find a good spot to sit where I could do sketching. And I wanted a bench, so this bench on the right here, I thought it was going to be perfect, but then I found this bench, which was right in front of the great lawn. Nobody sitting there, beautiful view, great sky. It was a beautiful day, and I decided to sketch this view. I took a picture of it for reference. Here you have it. It's a little bit darker than what I was seeing, so my sketch is a little bit lighter because I was seeing less shadows than what you see in that. So I sat down and I started painting. Here I'm using my little watercolor kit that I travel with most of the time. It's very small. First I started to apply some clear water to the page, and I'm using Pentel water brushes. I love the Pentel water brushes. This is a very broad tip. It's a flat tip actually. I didn't know they had it, and I found it at Michael's the other day. I'm loving it. This is the first time I'm using it outdoors. And I'm using here Daniel Smith Ultramarine Blue for the sky. So I first laid a layer of clear water, then a very light wash of Daniel Smith Ultramarine Blue. And I also have in this palette, which you'll see me using in a little bit for the background, Winsor & Newton Burnt Sienna, and Daniel Smith Pyrrol Scarlet, which is a warm red color, and Daniel Smith's Quinacridone Gold, as well as Reeves Phthalo Blue. So mainly the colors that I use for this sketch, and I can put those in the description below so you can have them. This sketchbook is actually a Strathmore mixed media art journal. I'm not in love with this sketchbook. The paper, it's not real watercolor paper. I don't love mixed media paper. I bought it because the cover was so nice and it just felt nice to hold, but I've been using it for a while, and I mean, it's usable and I'm gonna use it up, so I'm forcing myself to use it. But it's not my favorite sketching paper, but I mean, at the end of the day, it got the job done. Also, while doing this sketch, I completely forgot to bring some clips to hold the paper down, so the wind was blowing it. So usually I would bring some clips, and I would also usually draw a frame around before I paint the picture. And this time I didn't do it. I usually also sketch with a pencil first and black ink, before painting with watercolor. This time I wanted to practice being a little more loose and not having a drawing on the page first before painting. So I decided to try something different. It didn't turn out so bad, but it's something I'm not very used to. So I struggled with that a little bit. You see me holding there the sketchbook so it doesn't blow away with the wind. So I used mostly a mixture of Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Sienna to do the grays in this picture. And I used Quin Gold for the highlights of the buildings. It was near sundown. I mean, it was late afternoon, I should say, not really sundown. So the sun was coming from the west, and it was hitting all the buildings from the west. So you'll see that on the finished painting. And I use also that mix of Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Sienna to paint the trees. It's winter, it's January in New York right now. It's cold, and the trees don't have leaves, so there's a lot of branches that I painted using that mix. Here I dropped my little sponge. That's like a magic eraser that I use, and I cut it into tiny little shape, the same size of a watercolor pan, and I put it in my little watercolor kit to wipe my brush. So I dropped it, and I was also fixing a boo-boo that I made there with clear water and a towel that I had in my pocket. And also, this little watercolor box that I'm using here was made by me. It's actually a little box. I think it's meant to hold like Q-tips or something. I bought it in a Japanese store called Muji. It's Muji. I know there's a bunch of them in New York City, and I've seen some in Europe, in some of the big cities in Europe. I know in Paris and Madrid and London they have Muji, but I don't think it's really available in other parts of the US. They do sell online, I believe. But this tiny little box is a perfect size to fit 10 watercolor pans. And it's so small and convenient to carry. So I've been using it a lot lately. I also put some Yupo paper on the lid so I could have a white mixing area, because the box is a clear color and I like a white mixing area so I can see my colors well. So if you're interested in seeing a video about how I made this box and how it works or more information about it, I'm happy to share. I've tried very many different iterations of tiny watercolor kits that I have, and this I think is my favorite one. So definitely I would love to share how I made it if you're interested. So please leave a comment below if you're interested in seeing a video about that. Here I had to pause the camera and start again because somebody interrupted me. Actually, it was quite interesting to do this video outside where there are people walking around, walking their dogs and with their friends. A lot of people stopped to ask me questions, and I had to stop the camera and edit the video as best as I could so that you would see it in this video. But it's the first time I was videotaping myself while sketching. I usually do get people coming up to me and asking me questions. I feel this time it was more because I had the camera sitting there and people were more curious about it. So I heard people's comments, and some people actually stopped me and made me stop painting to talk to them. So that was interesting. I never had that much interest before when I went outside sketching. But I tried my best to do what I could to finish this picture. I wasn't able to finish it in the park though. It is January, like I said, and it's bitter cold outside. It was actually not that cold today. It was 50. That's why I tried to do this video outside today. But at the end of the video, my hands got really, really cold and my skin started cracking. So I had to stop the video and go home, and I finished the painting at home. So you'll see that at the end of this video, the finished painting. Here you basically just see me doing the background. When I went home, I actually painted the middle ground and the foreground with multiple washes of the same colors that I mentioned before to just give it more depth and more vibrancy and more perspective. So you'll see that at the end, but I just kept, here you go. So the final painting, as you can see, it's a lot more vibrant. I layered at least 3 or 4 more layers of paint, and I painted that tree in the foreground to give everything more depth. And I did paint actually a frame around it at the end. So I hope you like this video. Please give me a thumbs up or subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. And I'll see you next time.